What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Brand new patch on the live version of the game. Some pretty significant buffs for a few of the tanks, as well as some changes for the other characters. Also, today is the first day in the week 2 of the Lunar New Year event. So for this week, the challenge reward is going to be this McCree skin right here. Let's go and check out what those other balance changes are going to be. Quick reminder, these are the experimental mode changes, which means that you're not going to be able to get them in quick play, competitive, or the arcade just yet, but almost always these changes will go through about a week later, so just keep that in mind. First character we're going to look at is Orisa, who got a really cool buff. This is going to be to Fortify. When you activate Fortify, you now become immune to critical hit damage, which is really cool. All the other stuff remains the same, the cooldown, the duration, the fact I think it's 40% resist right now. Originally it was 50% and then they nerfed it down. I think it's 40% right now. And you also have the immunity to crowd control effects as well. But now you are also immune to critical hits, which is really cool. Now, most of the attacks that hit Orisa are going to be normal attacks, so this is not going to change that. But what this will change is when you have an enemy like an Ashe or a Hanzo or a Widow or something, now they can't land those criticals on you when you're in Fortify, when you're most vulnerable. Because usually what happens is you're going to drop down the barrier, and then when the barrier gets destroyed, then that is when you're going to activate the Fortify, and that makes you far more vulnerable. Even though you have the damage resistance, you're still going to be way more vulnerable to any of those hit scan characters or even Hanzo. You know, any characters that kind of prioritize those critical hits, you are now going to be much more effective against this. This is a really interesting way of changing the ability. I don't know if you can hear the cat meowing. She's kind of going nuts today. But anyways, this is a really interesting way to change the character and make the ability better without kind of just flatly increasing the damage resistance. I think this is a really cool thing, and I like the fact that Blizzard is getting more creative with these changes. Also, it's kind of funny because this is how I change, or this is one of the abilities, kind of, that I had for one of my own hero concepts that I just recently released, Quan, which has this ability called Guardian Hand, which you don't use it on yourself, you use it on a teammate, and it allows you to provide some damage resist to a teammate, and then they become immune to critical hits as well. So it's kind of funny. I guess Blizzard is actually watching my videos in order to get ideas. So pretty cool on that part. They're probably not doing that. But anyways, so I just like this. I mean, it might seem like a small change, but I like the fact that they're now getting more creative with how they are buffing and nerfing and balancing out these characters. Next up is Reaper, who got both a buff and a nerf. The first thing is the buff, which is the spread was reduced from 8 down to 6. This means that you can be further away and still hit the enemy with most of those pellets. However, the nerf aspect of this is that the damage per projectile was reduced from 7 down to 6. So while you can hit the enemies from further away, you're going to do a little bit less damage per pellet, but you should end up getting more of those pellets on the target. So it should, for the most part, balance out. Where it's not going to balance out is if you're really close. Because previously, if you're really close, you would hit them with all of the pellets regardless. But now, if you're really close, you're going to be doing 1 less damage per pellet. So you're going to get a lot less damage if you're right up next to the enemy. But if you're a little bit further away, you should be able to do a little bit more damage to them. However, you also need to keep in mind that because the spread has been reduced, you now have a better chance to get most of those into the critical area. So, again, another opportunity to do more damage. Also, keep in mind that even though the spread has been reduced, and you are going to get more pellets at greater range, you still have damage fall off, which means that at great range, even if you're hitting them with more pellets, you're still going to do really low damage just because of the damage fall off. Next character is Winston, who is getting a pretty nice little buff to his overall health and armor. He's not getting an increase to the total amount. Instead, what they're doing is they're changing a little bit. So instead of having 100 armor and 400 normal health, he's going to have 150 armor and 350 normal health. So it remains the same of 500 total, but he now has an additional 50 armor. Now, combine this with the fact that Reaper just got nerfed with his close range damage. This means that Winston is going to do quite a bit better against Reaper. He's still not going to be amazing, and I don't really recommend trying to 1v1 a Reaper as Winston, but this means that you're not going to get just completely melted in 1 or 2 hits. Next up is Hammond. He is getting a nerf to the grappling hook. The knockback strength is being reduced by 25%, and I want to be clear that this is not the damage that you do, it is simply the knockback distance that the enemies will get thrown. And the reason why they're doing this is because Hammond can use the grappling hook quite frequently, and you can very often hit enemies with this, and because of that, they just wanted to reduce the effectiveness a little bit. So, you can still have all of the mobility of the grappling hook, it's just not as frustrating for the enemy teams who are going to be constantly getting knocked all over the place. Quick summary, these are some interesting changes with Orisa. Again, I like the fact that they're being creative and they're doing other stuff than just changing cooldowns and durations and stuff. I believe that this is probably going to be most effective in the upper bracket, where the enemy players are more likely to get criticals on you, and therefore it's going to be more effective at stopping them, but it's also going to be effective in the lower bracket as well. With Winston, these are going to be effective changes across the board, particularly in the upper bracket. If you're able to run a coordinated dive comp with a Diva or a Hammond or something, then this is definitely going to be way better for Winston. With Hammond, it's just a nerf. You really don't see this character all that much in the lower bracket, and in the upper bracket, he's still probably going to be pretty effective, particularly with the change to Winston. If dive does come back in some way, then, I mean, Hammond's going to stick around. And then the last one is for Reaper. It's really not going to affect the upper bracket at all. They don't use this character that much. Even against Winston, Reaper just isn't really used. And now he's going to be less effective against Winston, not only because his damage was reduced, but also because Winston got more armor. So Reaper's just not going to be that much effective in the upper bracket at all going forward. And, I mean, unless something else changes, something big with the meta that just kind of changes everything, I don't really see Reaper getting used all that much in the upper bracket. But with the lower bracket, Reaper tends to be a little too strong, and this change will probably balance him out a little bit, make him less frustrating to deal with, but also for the people that are able to be a little bit more skillful with the character, then they're going to benefit from it. So what do you guys think about all of these changes? Let me know down below. A big thanks to all the Paragons and other channel members for all your support. If you'd like to become one and grab some cool rewards, click the join button down below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like before you leave. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.